All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for your time today. I'm Trevor Higgs,
And I'm Jeremy Bargill.
and we're really thrilled to be here today to talk to you guys about kind of a new approach to talent management that's called demand-side talent management, and its sub-process of demand-side talent acquisition. And we want to talk to you about how our product, Catalyzr, enables people and companies to embrace it and adopt it. Today, we're going to cover what is demand-side talent management and talent acquisition, because it is kind of a new concept. What is Catalyzr, because we're kind of a new company. And how does Catalyzr help companies adopt that demand-side talent acquisition? And then we'll go do a Q&A session for you guys and answer all your questions, I hope. So, click.
What is demand side talent management? What it is a proactive approach that ensures your talent acquisition and development efforts are laser focused on driving your organization's success, aligning talent with business objectives, focusing on critical positions. It's about anticipating your future skill needs and building a talent pipeline that can adapt to change.
That leads us to the sub-process of demand-side talent acquisition. Demand-side talent acquisition is really focusing on using data to drive decisions, and that data could be skills assessment, it could be cognitive assessments, but either way, it's about really using data more than just gut feel. Individual strategies to attract and engage, source, and select. Some companies like Google have actually stopped using college degrees as a mandatory because they're recognizing you really don't need a degree to be a good developer. And that opens up your talent pool and your talent base source from. It makes it very broad, and it actually helps with inclusion. And the last thing, proactive sourcing. Now, we've talked about CRMs and passive candidate pools for years. That way you could go send them out, you get a new application. What people are shifting to now is really proactive sourcing. Proactive sourcing allows you to proactively screen and see if that person fits before they even apply. And then you call them up and you say, we want to interview you for that job. It's a much more kind of aggressive form of managing that talent pipeline. Those are the three big areas: demand-driven decisions, a custom strategy for selection, and then proactive sourcing. And we're going to tie all those things back together.
Really, to appreciate the power of demand side talent acquisition, let's compare the traditional side to the demand side. As you can see, the traditional side is often reactive. You focus on filling the immediate needs rather than looking at long-term strategic goals, which inevitably it leads to misaligned hires, high turnover, basically a lot of missed opportunities. Now, with demand side talent acquisition, we're looking at a proactive approach, that's strategic, and basically we want to find the best fit for critical roles and, quality, reduce turnover, and building a pipeline of talent that is reusable and some that we can focus on in the future.
Right. That was a very high level on the demand side. And the real question is, well, how do you effectively implement that demand side talent acquisition? And what we do with Catalyzr is we create this new talent intelligence solution. It enables companies to model their top performing employees. One of the with traditional talent acquisition is everyone's very much about, does the employee match, or does the candidate match the job profile or the skills for the job profile? And the thing that we look at is, does the candidate actually match the person who is most successful at that job today? So companies will model their top performing employees through a series of assessments that we provide, and we create this profile of what's successful in that company. And it's really tailored to the needs of the company. Then, as candidates come in, they go through and take those same assessments, and then our AI algorithms will go through and look at that success profile. What they're doing is seeing how closely that candidate matches that success profile along the lines of the things that we're looking for. Falls into general mental ability, which is critical thinking, problem solving, conscientiousness, abstract reasoning, and a number of other dimensions, because those have been proven to be the best indicators of potential success within a role and the best indicators of the ability to learn on the job. We all know that now, with the pace of change in technology, we have to learn more and more. So learning is super important. Everyone understands if you don't have enough critical thinking or problem solving, you can't do a job. But if you have too much of it, you also get bored, you leave, or you become disengaged. So what our algorithms do is we model what we call a cognitive fingerprint, the particular pieces of success for that role based off of the people who are best in it. And then our candidates come, they take the same assessments, and our algorithms go and quantify how close they are to that. We're quantifying somebody's potential to be successful in that role. And we put it together and we present it as an easy to understand metric that we call the career quotient. The career quotient is kind of a number between 1 and 100. Above 70, you're high potential for that role to do well. Between 50 and 70, you're good. And below 50, I really wouldn't recommend you doing that. So every candidate gets super personalized reviews of what their potential to succeed is in that role. What a company gets out of it is an understanding of how can I replicate the best performers in that role. And that's what Catalyzr does. It helps you identify who your best performers are, helps clone them cognitively so they can do just as well. Using that career quotient, companies can engage with candidates and employees, and you could use it not just in talent acquisition, but across all of talent management, which is how it supports demand-side talent management and the full spectrum of processes. And this allows you to move beyond your traditional metrics and resumes, years of experience, and views to make really data-driven talent decisions.
Catalyzr really in demand side talent acquisition. When we talk about data-driven decisions, we talk about the career quotient. It's an objective data point on candidate potential. So we can make informed recruiting decisions that are the best indication of job success based on cognitive abilities. Once we tie that in, we can customize recruiting. And how do we do that? We have role-specific profiles. Once you have those, we can prioritize in recruiting the people who are best fits for that career, the persons who are best in that role at the company, and we can target the recruiting for candidates internally or externally who are the best fit. And once we're able to do that and identify high potential candidates, we can build that proactive talent pipeline. The more that we have a career quotient for all roles, we build a collaboration between HR, between the hiring managers and leadership to provide a common data-driven framework for talent assessment. We can understand what those needs are, and we can get ahead of the curve to find people efficiently and effectively.
This slide is actually what a recruiter would see when they're looking at a role. So what you have here is the exemplars who are the best people in that role. And then you have the people who have applied for the role and their career quotient for how closely they match these exemplars. And that's great for your applicants. But where you get into proactive talent pipelining is people apply for other roles within your organization. They've taken the assessment. We calculate a career quotient not only for the role that they applied to, but for every other role in the company. And what you have here for proactive pipeline is potentials. These are people who have applied for a different role within the organization who also might be fantastic in this job that you're going to want to potentially and ask them to apply for it. So it's a way of discovering new talent that you might not have otherwise seen before. The last thing about the proactive talent pipeline is that once somebody's in the system, if you have another job that comes out 6 months from now, well, we already have their answers to the assessments, and we recalculate their scores for that new job, and they will still show up as a potential. That allows you to find people who might have applied 6 months ago who'd be great for this role right now because they're super high potential for it. And then you could reach out to them, call them up and say, hey, we've got something for you, which is a much more proactive way of doing things. And it's a better candidate experience because you're focusing on candidates who have the highest potential for success. And the reason why they have this highest potential for success is that they match your high performers very closely. This leads to better job fit, reduced turnover, and ultimately finding candidates who match your top performers will bring higher performance. And that's the way HR can have a bottom line impact on the organization by helping to bring in truly high performing candidates that will help make the organization better. Jeremy, you want to talk about our case study that we had?
Sure. So Gold Medal Environmental is a 700 to 800 person regional waste management company based in the mid-Atlantic portion of the United States. We did a 3-month pilot with them. The challenge was with their sales team, there was tremendous turnover and limited recruiting resources. We modeled their top salespeople and started the recruiting process. And once we had objective data with the career quote, they looked at all the candidates, identified the people with the top CQs, and those are the only people they interviewed, and those are the people that they hired. The objective data point that gave them the ability to reduce their time to hire with limited staff.
Now they've bought the solution. We're now rolling it out to the rest of and they've started looking at our talent solution. They want to pilot Catalyzr Talent and help them with their career development program and guide training. Everyone likes to say that the future is predictive and data driven and talent centric. And what Catalyzr is trying to do is focus in on the predictive talent management. We're giving science-backed insights that are tested and validated for decades. There's this other piece, seamless integration. When I was in HR tech at Credit Suisse and when I was at Accenture, we used to see systems that integrate other platforms and be standalone and take a feed, but it forces HR or employees to leave the system and then have to come back into it. And that's just not a great experience. So one of the things that we looked at when we built this was, well, candidates might take the assessment in our system we can pass the data down into tools like success factors. And you can see on this page here how the career quotient can be used on a career development page. So you can bring the data in and you can configure it into your screens. And by doing that, right, and this is where you'd see it within a career opportunity marketplace. So we are a silver partner for SAP. And we're building a set of integrations with them, and then we're working through with Oracle and Workday. You can see Catalyzr's Career Quotient provides organizations with this quantifiable, defensible decision-making tool for talent mobility that's immediately actionable without bias, and we can run it at scale. By being able to pass it down into the core systems, we're providing more value because we're providing data and actionability within the most expensive solutions that our clients have already invested in, which is their core HR and talent platforms. So we accelerate and de-risk and optimize the most significant HR technology investment with demonstrable ROI because you're going to have a better, higher performing organization. So our core value is not just the fact that we have the career quotient, but the career quotient can be used and passed down into core HR and then used throughout the talent processes. We think the career quotient is the one number you need to know for talent because you could use it across talent acquisition, career development, session, and even comp if you wanted to. So that's our special sauce, the ability to actually really integrate in with these core systems and bring that metric in. Jeremy, you want to wrap it up?
Our focus is on predicting potential and aligning talent with business objectives. Unlike a lot of traditional HR tools that rely on past performance or subjective evaluations, what we want to is provide an objective, science-backed insight into future potential, enable you to make more informed decisions about hiring, development, succession planning. We provide a comprehensive talent intelligence solution.
That sums up the presentation part of today. We can get more into a conversation. If you're ready to transform your strategy, you could request a demo. This QR code will bring you to the request a demo site. Otherwise, you could go to our website, get sources. Otherwise, just give us a call. We get lonely. And with that, I will stop the share and open it up for anyone who wants to ask a question. All you have to do is unmute and go ahead. Thanks. And if you take a moment when you come in, tell us who you are, where you're from. That would be appreciated too. Questions?
Yes, Trevor, I'll go ahead. This is Steve Katarwa calling in from Chicago with Epic Global Solutions. One question, what's the time commit, right? So usually when you get a client, like how much does it cost in terms of dollars and how much does it cost in terms of what do I need to do? What do the employees need to do? What am I asking of the organization? How do you, like, if you guys come in, how do you implement it? Like in terms of getting the job descriptions put together, the information on existing employees, that kind of stuff.
I'll break it down for you. So the job descriptions that we're going to get, we would actually pull directly from your ATS because we want to have consistency with that. We have our own skills that we could attach into them, or we could use your skills, or we could mix both. So the first thing that you wind up doing is a job mapping, which is your jobs to our internal ones that we have. The second thing you'd wind up doing is saying for the jobs that you want to use, who are your best people in that role? Who are the people that if you could magically clone them, you would clone a whole army of them because that would make your life so much easier, right? Because those are the ones that you're going to want to approach and you talk to and say, hey, you're fantastic. We want to, we want to get you involved. We want to model you so we can find more people who are just as good as you are. So you'd gather the exemplars, say 5 for each role, and it could be more, it could be less. And then they would take the assessments. The assessments are 6 assessments that take between 40 minutes and an hour. You can take them one at a time, the longest of which is 20 minutes. 2 of them are untimed. So we're asking essentially your exemplars to take 60 minutes out of their life to complete these. And then within an applicant tracking system within the flow, an applicant would apply, and then generated off of that apply would be a message to us. We would send them email, or a recruiter could send them an email or a text that says, thank you for applying. Here's the next step. The next step is to go do this, take the Catalyzr assessments. It's the next step in the process for recruitment. They would take that as soon as they're done. We calculate all the Catalyzr quotient numbers for every role that is in the database. And then that's available for recruiters, or if it's internal, it's available for internal talent people. So it's an hour out of people's time in order to get a lot of information about where they could go and what they could do with their future. I could go on, but that's kind of the summary of it. We've been up and running in pilot mode. We don't have to necessarily integrate with clients. We've been up and running in as little as 4 days to get pilots up and going, between 4 and 10 days. We do have integrations for when people sign up.
It's not a complicated process. And as Trevor said, it's been anywhere from 4.
Did that answer your question?
It did. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Hey guys, this is Maddie Bright. Could you guys go into more detail regarding the assessments themselves, what attributes you're testing, and how do you go, like, what does the measurement of those attributes look like? How will you said it's about an hour, right? Could you just go into more detail on that assessment piece?
So there are 6. What we're measuring is arithmetic reasoning, so it's word problems. Another one is abstract reasoning, which is nonverbal 3D oriented.
Spatial reasoning.
There's another one about attention to detail. So when it gives you pairs or sentences that say what's different about these, or are these the same, you have to go through it. And that's dealing with attention to detail, which correlates out to conscientiousness, also speed of processing, and speed of closure. There's another one that deals with, there's a verbal assessment. And the last 2 assessments actually are less about the cognitive ability part, but more about, one is a values assessment. Do you value achievement, independence, organizational support, work-life balance? That way, when we're making recommendations, we're not putting you in a job that is the opposite of what you'd want. So we figure if people are in roles where they have, are doing what they value, then they'll stay longer and be happier. And the last one is an assessment that asks you about your interests, but really what it's doing in the background is it's putting together a very small psychological profile about how you think and how you work. Does that help you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have an ebook that goes really deep into the science behind it. We put together with our IO Psych advisor, and we can happy to provide it.
One other quick follow-up question is, how do you guys incorporate the consideration of disabilities, whether that's cognitive disability or other, in the assessment?
That's a super tough question. The short answer is we sort of don't. 2 of the assessments are not timed. The other 4 are timed, and that's part of the structure of the assessment, which is how well you process based on a time period. We are looking into it, and it's on our roadmap to go forward.
Right.
Does anyone else have a question?
I guess I was thinking about, how does this change over time? So does someone let's take the position, right? I imagine I can tweak it as I go. So a year from now, I decide the superstar in this role should have a different, that's a pretty easy tweak.
I think I can answer this one. So I'm going to give you the assumption that everybody in the company has already taken an assessment. So I have numbers on everybody. And then you have a new exemplar that comes in, or the position is changed in some way where the top skills are different. Nobody needs to retake the test. If you have a different exemplar, you put a different exemplar in there and it recalibrates to see whether those people are aligned or not. Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like your exemplars are sort of pendant of my company, my role, my position, right? In that you wouldn't expect that if someone's like 3 years now retakes the test, I guess they could get better at attention to detail, things like this, right? I guess, do people grow or change in your opinion? Like, do I want to redo this every year, every 3 years for people in the organization, or once I do it once, I'm kind of there?
So your general mental ability and the growth in that is locked in generally by the time you're about 21, 22, and it doesn't change a lot. What happens is you develop behaviors that compensate. So, what you have is kind of what you have when you're locked in. You could choose to redo, and you redo the test every couple of years, and that's fine. What's more likely is that we're always looking, is there a way that we could do it differently? Is there a way that we could bring in and get more granular information? Can we really drill down on conscientiousness and flesh that out more to get more granular information? So what will happen is probably over time we will be adding things in where you'll be asking somebody, oh, take 5 minutes, go complete this. And that way we'll develop a more fleshed out form of these things. Does that answer your question?
It does. And let me say it another way just to make sure I understand it. I was worried that the results would get stale. It sounds like they don't. They may get a bit dated and that you've added a couple criteria that we need to supplement or catch it up. But kind of once you do the test once, there's no meaningful reason to have the people do it every 3 years or 4 years to see if any.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That makes sense.
Right. Now, what Jeremy was saying is if you have 5 people that are exemplars that you chose, and then 2 years later, one of them's just not performing for whatever reason, then literally there's a click of a button that removes them from being exemplar and another click that adds another person in. And then it'll recalculate all everything
Yep. Okay.
immediately. So it is super easy to do that.
Part of the whole changing business, adapting to business needs. So if something does change and you have a different exemplar, then
The reason that I was asking that is we have a relatively large organization. People move from time to time between groups. And what you don't want to do is like have your annual review and say, hey, why don't you take the Catalyzr assessment, right? It's like a red flag of, hey, we're thinking about moving you to a different position. Where if everybody comes in, they've got sort of their baseline, we can look at them, have that discussion, but then at that time, sort of make suggestions for other moves within the organization. Again, without kind of giving the red flag of if you're taking the assessment, we're thinking about moving you or shipping you out.
What this allows you to do actually is allows you to provide them with information on these are the careers where actually you have a high potential to succeed. And then you could help train them into that. So I didn't spend a lot of time. We could do a demo on this for you. But what employees see on their screens, and what I was trying to show you on the SAP screens is they'll say, this is your current role. Your score is this. Here are 3 other roles where your score is higher, where you have the potential of doing really well. Because what happens if you look at my career trajectory, I didn't go into project management when I first started because I thought I'd be a fantastic project manager. I did it because I needed a job, right? What Catalyzr helps you do is it helps you understand that while you've been doing this, you could also be in your marketing. You're actually much better suited towards this. You match the cognitive fingerprint from marketing or advertising. And then we provide you with not only just that indication of where you could go and do well, but then here's the skills you need in order to get to that role. And then that allows companies to make much better use of their training spend and have a real ROI because they're making recommendations that are highly personalized recommendations to employees for careers and learning. That's all about getting them to be high performers in a role where they could be high performers, which benefits them and it benefits the company. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Maddie.
Steve's question kind of made me think. I definitely see the value in this for sure. Steve's question triggered my mind about, do we need to retake the assessment every 5 years because people evolve and change? I hear you that certain cognitive abilities are kind of implanted at a certain point. They don't necessarily change. But what about skills like leadership or managing teams? Like, is the expectation that you're just matching the cognitive imprint and then you have to interview those folks who are high potentials to dig in? Or what?
Yes.
You still have to interview. I mean, you're still going to have to interview people. What we're doing is giving you a short list, as it were. These are the people that have the highest potential to succeed. They might have other things that you want to interview them about. You want to make sure they're not a sociopath. There are certain things that you want to interview people. It's not going to completely replace an interview, but it gives you a short list. And they have the ability to succeed, and they have it at the highest level based on their cognitive resources.
So, yeah, did that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah. It sounds like obviously you can't do a catch-all here, right? And you
Right.
still to do the interview.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's 2 cases that I talk about for that, like where One's a recruiting case, another one's a talent case. So in a recruiting case, you might have an investment bank that gets 100,000 applications a year for 1,000 jobs. Well, how do you sort through those people quickly? How do you know who I should talk to first? By going with Catalyzr, getting a career quotient for every one of them that says, these are the people who are closest to the people in that role. We should go talk to them first, and it helps you prioritize when you have a large volume of people coming through. And then the second case I talk about is a leadership and development program, right? Leadership and development programs are just fraught. I'll say fraught. They tend to be super biased. 75% of them, you only have one person who suggests you for a program. It's generally your manager. So a lot of it is, oh yeah, I play golf with Bobby. Bobby's great. He should go into this program. And then companies spend 4 times as much money on training those leaders as they do all the other employees. But statistics say that about 50% of the people who go into their first leadership job fail, right? And that's a selection issue. But what Catalyzr lets you do is say, I'm going to create a cognitive profile of our successful leaders, and then reach out across the entire organization and say, who matches these leaders? And because it's based on general mental ability, and that is the same, whether you're black, white, man, woman, whatever, right? And it allows a much more scientific and structured selection process that's defensible. And you're going to find other people out there that you might not have ever thought of, right? Maybe because they're super quiet and they're a good individual contributor, but they're a great match for this leader. Those are the people that you want to train, because those are the ones that are the highest potential, and that's what makes things fair.
Absolutely. And I think the value in this that I see off the bat is, if we think about the use of AI in recruiting right now, right? It's your ATS scanning millions of resumes. And I don't think that's necessary. It helps, right? It does make things a little more efficient, but I do think it's not a doesn't give you a holistic picture, and people sometimes don't get through. I would say most of the time don't get through who may be perfect, at least for the interview process, right? So
yeah. And with ATSs and with AI, and this is one of the things when we started doing it, ours is a lot more machine learning than ChatGPT, because it's kind of horses for courses. In the first generation of AI powered ATSs, really what they're doing is they're doing the same things that our recruiters are doing. Where'd you go to school? What's your years of experience? What company did you work at before? Which aren't really great indicators of success. Cognitive ability is 50% better indicator of success than actually years of experience or years of education or where you went to school, unless those years of education were for like a medical degree, in which case you need a medical degree. But on like a general thing, it's a better indication of success for that. What all the old ATSs did was they did the same thing recruiters did, just faster. And that gets you to the same results, just faster. The second generation of applicant tracking systems are looking at skills. But again, I get back to something out on LinkedIn the other day. If you looked in 1905, one of the skill-based applicant tracking systems looked at skills, and you looked at Einstein, you'd be like, oh, he's a patent clerk. He's got patent clerk-like skills. Let's give him a job that has a related set of skills to patent clerk. But it doesn't look at potential, right? And what we're trying to look at is potential. Skills systems are fantastic at identifying capability, but what we look at is potential. And what we really think is that you should be having skills and potential, and that's your fantastic mix. We fit right in there. So like a skills will tell you these 10 guys have the skills you need to do the job, and we'll be like, those 3 people, they have the highest potential to do it well. Go talk to them first.
I love that. I have one more question unless someone else does. I'm just not sure if this is on the roadmap. If not, maybe some food for thought. But have you guys thought about, obviously you guys are pitching this to companies for them to implement and utilize for their recruiting process and also their internal talent management, right? Internal transfers, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on the roadmap to actually have this more broadly offered, really just to the general employees out in the market or job seekers out in the market? I feel like there's an opportunity here for you guys to gather a lot of data on, folks just out there, right? Job seekers, folks who are in a job, but they're looking for something else. and then also feeding that information potentially to your current clients. Is that on the roadmap? Have you thought about that?
So on the road, yes, it is on our roadmap. The first thing we actually did was we did a beta test a couple months ago of what we're calling Catalyzr Alpha. Catalyzr Alpha is aimed towards kind of college students, recent college students, so that as they come into their freshman years of school and they don't know what they're going to do, this helps them identify careers, what they could be potentially great, and then helps them get them on that road. We tested that. We got some great feedback. We're looking at that and seeing what we're going to do with it. Part of that was, wouldn't this be great for the general public? We are looking at that. What we want to do from a data perspective is we want to work with clients. We want to identify what's best in their organizations. Then we want to take that data, anonymize it. We want to come up with kind of standards of what's the best, what is the profile for the best SaaS salesman, regardless. And then when we have that, I think we'll be able to go out and go to the general public and be like, hey, you really want to know what you could be? Come here. We've kind of got these standard profiles that are fantastic of what is not good, but fantastic, and help people figure out where they want to go. But it is on our, that's a long way of saying, yeah, totally on our roadmap.
It's definitely on the roadmap, but second to corporations, we're looking to get into the universities, as Trevor said, with the career development for students starting from day one.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
I love it. Great job, guys.
Yeah, and the other thing with the recruiting modules, once we get this, go ahead, ask your question. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the earlier question. Actually, that again was very interesting, and I was thinking about that. Like, okay, how about the job seekers? So thank you for covering that. I have a question about the industries. Like, okay, how many industries you currently have covered, and like, is it an ongoing thing, or you go to the organizations and then ask them about the profiles and everything? Like, okay, you feed in the data, or do you already have that like repositories and everything built and ongoing?
Okay. Jared, do you want this one or should I take it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the question. I mean, we don't, but I'll try to answer it and you can tell me, Deepika.
Mhm.
Well, let me reiterate the question, or let me restate the question a different way. Does Catalyzr have a bunch of standard profiles that we can bring to
Okay.
companies in case
Right.
they don't have, if
Right.
they say, well, we don't know what good looks like, or we're whatever,
Right.
do we have something that's a standard profile that they
Yes.
can
Yeah.
use? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the question. Libraries, like, do you have those profile libraries or something with you, or do you
Yes,
go to the
we do.
organizations?
We do.
We
Oh,
do. We
okay.
do. We have a series. If you don't have exemplars, we have data that's from the Department of Labor. So we do have those standards if a company does not have exemplars.
Right.
Okay. And one more question I have about the SAP's integration or the success factors upcoming talent intelligence hub and all of that. So like, will that also be in your like next talent integrations? Will that be covered too? Or
Yes.
right now it's just the roadmap is only to focus about the recruitment and the performance?
No. So our integration, first of all, would go through like the BTP platform, and then we'd be able to federate it off. What we're doing is we bring that data in, we bring that data down, and then we're working on how to configure it from the metadata out into the career, the opportunity marketplace and your career development and those things. So you can put as long as we'll have the data there, and we'll put it wherever we can, right? We could put it, you could put it into the comp module if you have a company that pays their cash for what you did this year. You had a great performance year, we'll give you cash for this year, but we're giving you equity based on your potential to do well, and there is no good metric for that. So you could have the career quotient in there and say, oh, this person's high potential to do, for this role, let's do it there. If you look at in success factors, you have a 9 box for high potential. The 9 box isn't tied to a role, and it's not really tied to any criteria. When Jeremy and I were at Accenture, right, we saw people, we were talking to clients, and clients would be doing the 9 box for a group, and you had a new manager. It was like, oh, I think Josh is great. He's high potential. And then you have somebody from HR going, he was just on a PIP last year, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. So what this does is it actually puts some science around the idea of high potential. So it's not like a checkbox anymore. But yeah, you could federate it. You could federate the CQ all the way through the success factors environment, and that's not a roadmap thing. That's a thing we're working on trying to put the configuration into an easy sort of script to roll out now.
Yeah. Sounds good. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions? If you don't, then that's great. And I would encourage everyone to go to our website, catalyzr.com. We have all the resources there that you can download. There's an ebook on the science behind Catalyzr, and there is a couple white papers we had on how you could use it, as well as our case study for our client there. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody.